A very good evening and thanks for clicking on to the Friday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Really, up until about a week ago, we've had this fight between Atlantic and Arctic, and a lot of the reason for that is because we've never truly been able to shut down the Atlantic. And when you look at this is the cross section of the polar vortex with the height here on the on the left side of the graphic. Underneath is the dates. And of course, you've got the anomaly here on the right-hand side. And essentially, what we've had is, we had a strong polar vortex compared to normal during the month of November. Hence, why we had some very mild and very wet conditions here. But then, of course, we had the sudden stratospheric warming at the turn of the new year. We've seen very, very deep raids here, showing that strong warming. But you notice here that really once you get into the troposphere, the oranges turned into faded yellows, which indicated that we didn't get the same mixing down through the troposphere. We've got two areas in particular where we just didn't get that. We had some slight mixing right down to the low levels during the during the second half of January. But then really the true mixing took place right at the very edge of the graphic here. So about a week ago, we've seen that reversal between 850 and 500 millibars, shutting down the Atlantic and pulling our air in from the east here. And of course, we've seen some very, very cold air, intense cold air gathering over Eastern Europe with high pressure pulling itself over Scandinavia. That allowed the cold air to come into the British Isles. So of course, seeing 3 or 4 days heavy snowfall, well below freezing through the lowest 5,000 feet of the atmosphere. Hence we had snowfall all the way down to sea level, so we didn't have this fight between rain, sleet and snow. We just had pure snow, which to me constitutes a beast from the east. If you've got 0 Celsius during the daytime, factor in a 15 to 25 mile per hour wind, you've got -5 to -10 Celsius wind chills. To me, that's a beast from the east, if you ask me. Then we've seen high pressure building in from the north. Cold, very cold, dense air in place with deep snow covered ground. That allowed the temperature to drop to -23 at Braemar, -22 at Kinbrace, -20 at Altnahara. So 3 sites seen -20 yesterday morning for the first time since December 2010. But of course, -23 then surpassed the levels seen back in 2010, 9-10 and 10-11, because we've seen the coldest temperature of -22 back in Altnahara in 2010 during the month of December. So you have to go back all the way to 1995 for the last time we've seen a colder temperature than back in 2010. So very significant cold indeed. And it was in fact the coldest February temperature for the UK since 1955. So very interesting indeed. Milder conditions is coming as we go through the weekend here. And the reason why is we've got more of a push coming in from the Atlantic. We've got a somewhat of a weakening of this South Norwegian high that's centered right here. That is essentially going to start to weaken and drift south, allowing the Atlantic to come back into play once again. You can see that taking place. However, it's a slow process warming things up. Even though we're starting to see 850 temperatures rising to perhaps above freezing, get yourself down in the lower atmosphere. You've got that cold air down at low levels. What happens is that warmer rises over top of the cold air, and you eventually mix that warmer air right down to the surface, and that's exactly what we're going to see over the course of the weekend and then the next week here. So milder conditions coming in. What is interesting is models indicate milder, colder air coming back in at the end of February, but also this is the CFSV2 for the month of March. Colder than normal, if you can see here, and you can also see here at the 500 millibar level and a northern blocking high. So more high latitude blocking, more Greenland blocking. What does that indicate? It indicates more cold weather. So we're not necessarily done with the cold just yet. That's it for today. Hope you have a